Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on your and our favorite Little's Law YouTube channel. So today in this video, we're going to see what is GitHub. It's going to be a very basic video on how GitHub plays a crucial role in terms of site reliability engineering. It can be any repository. It can be like GitLab or Bitbucket or Azure DevOps, but GitHub actually has some additional, I would say, an extra advantage of using in terms of other repositories, and that's the reason most of the vendors, most of the clients uses GitHub because, as I told you, they play a crucial role in terms of, or like it's something like right hand for the site reliability engineers. It's completely a central hub for collaboration, for automation, and for infrastructure management. And the reason I have showed you this, the background that you're seeing now is something like in the galaxy, yes. So what we are seeing in terms of the SREs, you have like a full stack of tools to learn. It's not an impossible thing, it's a possible one, but all it needs is your patience, your training, and your practice, like how well you keep on practicing it. So it all depends on that. And coming back to this one here, so yeah, we're going to discuss about the first or the top 8 ways, the key ways for SREs to use GitHub. Nowadays, any engineer, any IT engineer who works in IT, he can be in any role. He can be a developer, a tester, a DevOps engineer, infrastructure manager, a network engineer. Anybody must have knowledge on GitHub, but the SRE should have an extra and upper hand on using the GitHub. The first thing is, let me take you to the first one. The first reason that you must know the GitHub is the infrastructure as code. Yep, as you can see here, infrastructure as code. And the reason is SREs, the site reliability engineers, users repositories, basically in our terms, GitHub. So to store Terraform, uh, it can be Ansible or any cloud formation scripts to manage the infrastructure. Yes, so site reliability engineers basically manages the infrastructure. So to manage that, they have to store the code in the repository, and for that, they have to use the GitHub. So that's the reason we are, as the SRE engineers uses, the GitHub as the favorite or as the most used repository. And the second part is version controlling. Yes, version control using GitHub. GitHub has its own set of version control, which actually makes, which ensures consistency and rollback capabilities. Yes, you can actually keep maintain the consistency, and even it's very easy for you to roll back your changes, roll back whatever changes you make. So that's another advantage of using the GitHub. So this is the first one, that is infrastructure as code. Again, we are going to see separately on what is infrastructure as code, and I'm going to demo you on ARM templates and Terraform in our upcoming sessions, and it's going to be happening in next few days. So if you're interested to become an SRE engineer, please do register with me. You can reach out to me in my WhatsApp channel, and we're going to see that. So that's the first topic. You must learn about the infrastructure as code. That is, how are we going to use Terraform, how we're going to use ARM template or any other code, like it can be Backstage or any other code. But the first thing is infrastructure as code, and the second part is the CI/CD pipelines. Yes. So we all know about the CI/CD pipelines, the continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, but how does it relates with GitHub and the SRE engineers in our terms? So these GitHub actions, we all have the GitHub actions, and so GitHub actually provides us the GitHub actions. It's again, it's with Jenkins, we do have with GitLab as CI/CD pipelines, and but the main thing is they help us to automate the testing, the deployment, and the rollback of applications and infrastructure. In case if something goes wrong during deployment, we can actually do the rollback using the GitHub actions, and that's where we run the pipeline, the workflows, and everything. So GitHub helps us to learn or to work on the CI/CD pipeline. So as an SRE engineer, we have to make sure that we have a high availability by implementing canary deployments, blue-green deployments and auto rollbacks. So to learn more about what is a candidate deployment, about blue-green deployments and auto rollbacks, we'll see that in the upcoming SRE sessions. But yeah, this is the first topic, first thing, that is uh, to make sure that you're going to keep things available by implementing the when I say availability, when you're making some changes to the system, when you're deploying some change. So availability is something which is to keep the system available for the users when the deployment is in progress. So say for example, when I'm deploying my change, I must not bring the production system down because lakhs and millions of users would be using the system, right? So at that time, the systems would be available. I must not make any unavailability time for the users. So that's the next point in terms of the CI/CD pipelines. And this GitHub actually help us to implement the CI/CD pipelines in that manner. And then the next one, which is the incident response and postmortem. So when we get some incidents of SRE engineers, yes, so we have to handle the incidents and we have to do postmortem. So the point here is SRE teams store the postmortems and the root cause analysis, which we normally call it as RCAs, in GitHub. And this is to promote the culture of learning from failures. Yes, because uh, we normally face some failures during our work, during our activities, and again, the root cause analysis also happens whenever we face any incidents. We fix them, and then the next time, if we are going to face it, these root cause analysis that we did previously for our the same activity or for other activity will help us to speed up the process. That's the reason we have to paste or we have to actually keep the culture of learning from failure. So we have to have a copy. We have to store a copy of whatever we did in terms of postmortem or whatever we did in terms of root cause analysis. We have to have them in the GitHub. And next part is the issues and pull request, the PRs basically. Yeah, we're going to see about that as well, like how to create, how to raise a PR and how to merge the PR and everything. So issues and pull request help us to track any ongoing improvements and reliability fixes. So that's about the incident response and postmortems. And then the next part, which is the observability and monitoring code. This is the most critical part because we all know observability plays a major role for the SREs, for the site reliability engineers, right? So what does this observability tells us? I mean, GitHub actually hosts the monitoring and alerting configurations for example, like Prometheus rules, Grafana dashboards, data.configs, New Relic findings, and everything, right? So these configuration changes can be versioned. Yes, they have to be versioned every now and then to update to the latest version, and then it has to be reviewed, and also they have to be deployed automatically. So to configure all of these, I mean, like to manage all these, like the alerting configurations in terms of the Prometheus rules, the Grafana dashboards, and the database data.configs, we have to handle all these. We have to handle everything through the GitHub part, and that's the reason GitHub plays a major role in terms of observability as well. So it does not end up with just the infrastructure as code maintenance or storing the learnings or just the CI/CD pipelines. It also helps us to uh, create the monitoring and alerting configurations for the tools like Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog. And next thing is the runbooks and documentation. So what does this runbook and documentation does for us in terms of SREs are GitHub wikis. We all know the Wikipedia, the wikis, the README files, and the Markdown documents, the MD. We must see, we all see that .md files in our GitHub repos. So they actually help us to store the runbooks for on-call engineers. So who are all on-call engineers, the SREs basically, who are all on call. So they'll have to go through those GitHub wiki, README files, and the Markdown documents to make sure that what is happening and how to do the runbook activities. And then the playbooks for handling the outages. So in case if there are any outages, the SRE engineers will use the playbooks for handling the outages, for scaling, and for incident mitigation, which are maintained in the repository. So for all these activities, the GitHub is very well used. And again, the runbook and documentation are always useful for handling the outages, for handling the scaling and incident mitigation, and for maintaining. Again, these are all maintained in the repositories. So that's the fifth one. And then the next one, which is the security and the compliance. Yep. So GitHub integrates with the bots. We normally call it as dependabot. So you must have seen some dependabot in the GitHub PRs in the actions. And we do have some other third-party tools like Sync, Trevi for vulnerability scanning in code and dependencies, because these help us to keep the GitHub repo secure and compliant, and the SREs actually plays a major role in integrating them with the GitHub. I mean, integrating GitHub with these tools. And then the PR reviews. Yeah, as I told you, we see the dependabots in the pull request. Yes, so the PR reviews say enforces the security policies using GitHub Actions or policy as a code. So when you use GitHub Actions or when you use policy as a code, by default the PR, the pull request reviews. So when you do a review in your pull request, you make sure that you're following all the security policies. So by that, you're actually keeping your code, you're keeping your integration environment and everything safe and secure, right? So that's the reason we normally talk about the security and compliance in terms of the GitHub. And the next part is the chat ops and automation. So when I say about chat ops and automation, the SREs, like we use GitHub to trigger Slack bots. We know Slack, and we use PagerDuty alerts and our like auto remediation scripts based on the PRs, the pull request or issue updates. And so I can give you a clear example of how to do this. So when we merge a PR, that can trigger an auto scaling policy update in the AWS or in GCP. It can be anything. So merging a PR is a proper way, which I can tell you as an example in terms of triggering an action. So we're all going to see all these in our upcoming GitHub session, the first session on SRE. That's going to be a free session, and where we can see about how to clone, how to fork, and how to do the settings part. It's going to be a very interesting session. We are all going to learn a lot from an industry experienced person. So please don't miss the session, and we are going to discuss about every single topic in terms of the GitHub related to the SREs. And then for the finally the last part, which is the chaos engineering. So when I talk about the chaos engineering, um, we are the SRE stores and manages the chaos experiments, which are taken from the Gremlin, the Litmus chaos, the AWS fault injection simulator, or whatever scripts. Okay. And these versioned chaos tests ensure the reliability before any real world failures occur. So if as an SRE, we must not wait for any real world failure to happen. So instead what we do is we normally do various versioned chaos testing every now and then. That is something like a load test before we deploy that into the production environment. So this is similar to that, but it's not non-functional. It comes under non-functional testing, but this comes under the chaos engineering, where we do chaos test to make sure the reliability, since we are like reliability engineers as site reliability engineers, so we have to make sure that this is happening or this is working properly. So overall, in summary, GitHub is a central collaboration and automation tool for SRE teams, which helps us to manage code, infrastructure, incident response, and reliability at scale. And as I told you, so this weekend we are going to have our GitHub session, free session for SREs in terms of SREs. So please do join our WhatsApp channel. The WhatsApp channel link is in our YouTube channel group, so please do connect from there. And this is going to be more interesting and informative as well. So see you all in our first SRE session on GitHub. Thank you and take care and bye bye.